in the final video of this part, I'm going to demonstrate how we can use the original shadow of this peg to create a new shadow to make it look like it really belongs in this scene. Because at the moment, it looks like it's just hovering on the surface. It's not believable. Now, we have done quite a lot of things that will help it to look believable. And the peg has been focused with a light that was angled to a very similar angle to the scene in which it's meant to, obviously the background scene here. But we need to create that shadow, and we cannot use the shadow that came with the peg because it was cast on a white background, and we want the shadow to merge with this grass underneath it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the layer mask off, and that will reveal the shadow underneath the peg. All right, from when we photographed it, and that means we can use that to trace a new shadow to apply to this scene. So we turn the layer mask off by holding down the Shift key on the keyboard and then just clicking on the layer mask itself. There you go. And you can see our shadow here. It has quite a distinctive shape to it, so it's worth doing. I'm going to use our polygonal lasso tool again, and this time I'm going to trace around the shadow. Okay, now we can be quite rough with this because it's a shadow, and we're going to soften the edges a bit later. Now, one thing I recommend is that you actually go into the peg, just like so, and you select an area well within the peg. All right, this will help later on when we soften the edges of our shadow. Click OK. So there's our selection. Okay, at this point, if we click on Shift again and then just click in the layer mask, it will apply that layer mask to the peg, and you can see our selection stays in front of the peg. Okay, to create the shadow, I'm going to use the exposure adjustment layer. If I click on that, and then we can decrease the exposure and we can create our shadow. So I'm going to go drop about 2 stops or so for now. Now, one thing you'll notice is the shadow is above the peg, so we need to move it below the peg on our layers. There you go. So that's looking more real, but it's not very soft. It needs to be just a little bit softer. It's a bit too harsh. The shadow is a bit too harsh. And we can soften that by clicking up here on this little well, it's a layer mask symbol, isn't it? In the properties box. We click on there, and it gives us the option to feather that layer mask, and therefore the shadow. So if I do that, we've just got to, really all we're doing is replicating the shadows around the whole scene. And you can see just as we're lifting that, it already starts to look like that's as it should be. All right, it's starting to look real now. And then we can go back into our exposure adjustment, and then just edit the exposure as we feel will help this peg to look more real within this scene. And there you have it.